I've always felt music, no matter what tough spot I've been in my life, has saved me, no matter what. Got home from work and I just remember feeling really, really hot and going for a sleep. And then I woke up, I can't remember how many days later it was, in intensive care, which was very, very strange.
You were given or predicted, they said that it might be as short as 18 months. And that was 6 years ago.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
totally.
congratulations. That's mind blowing in itself. But how did you feel when you were given that type of news, Matt?
Pretty depressed initially, I think.
Yeah.
I remember because they thought I might be, when I was in the coma, I'd been told that they thought I might be paralysed down my right hand side because I wasn't showing much movement. Now, luckily, I wasn't in my leg, but I was in my hand. And I do remember specifically feeling there's no way I'm being paralysed in my hands. I want to, because being a guitarist.
That was like a man possessed. It's just like, I'm going to beat this fucking cancer. I'm going to make loads of tunes. And honestly, became so prolific overnight, and just, production quality, everything just went to another level. And then it's like, yeah, and I'm going to start a record label called Fight and Flight Recordings, and we're going to make money for Brain Tumor Charity. And it's just like, honestly, it's so inspiring. It's just absolutely fucking incredible.
One more thing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the One More Thing podcast. Today I'm joined by two very, very special guests. I'm joined by Adam and Matt, who run Fight or Flight Recordings, a label which comes from an incredibly special and I believe really unique place. We're going to find out about the label, about Matt and Adam's journey and everything else. This is going to be a super inspiring conversation. I already know this. Guys, how are you both doing? Thank you for joining me on One More Thing.
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks so much for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
no, my pleasure.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and thanks again. Yeah, repeat what Adam said.
Yeah, cool. You guys are based in Leicester. That's right, isn't it?
Well, we're both from Leicester. Adam's up in near Leeds.
Yeah, been up here since I came to uni in 2005.
Right, cool. I mean, I was in Leicester recently with Frankie, False Relation. She actually came and played an event that we were helping curate and stuff. So Frankie came there, we reconnected, we met in Sun and Bass and stuff like that previously. But yeah, I wanted to big her up and actually start the conversation, really, just to big her up, really, because she alerted me to what you guys are doing. And she was part of a fundraiser for you guys, right?
Yeah, so her night Country Motion, which is the thing she's building, brilliant night in Leicester. Big up Frankie, love to bits. My colleague at Leicester College, where we both lecture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so she's running this night Country Motion, which is the thing she's building. And she had an event which was a free one. There's a pub in Leicester called The Tree. It's got a big tree out the back of it. So she had a big sound system down there. And we went round and collected. And what we were doing, we were offering like a free couple of jungle tunes, basically, that I'd made in return for donations. So yeah, we made, I think it was close to 260 quid people gave us on one night in a pub, which was quite decent, I thought. So,
That's amazing. Just for kind of setting up a night in a pub and having people rave and, kind of giving away a few tracks, just to be able to kind of generate that from, a congregation of people in that way through raving is amazing, really. How did your set go?
Oh, I didn't play. I just was shaking a bucket at people.
Oh, right. Okay. Do you two play as soul-based project, or is it more of a production project then between the two of you?
Since I've not played out for about 6 years now, it was more me playing, but not that regularly, to be honest. It's more been about just producing and something we've always done, kind of. So
Yeah, I mean, we've been making music since, I don't know, since I was about 10. Matt's a couple of years older than me, about 3 years older than me. So yeah, kind of starting with band stuff really. Matt playing guitar, me playing bass. Yeah, mates from the villages, where we're from in rural Leicestershire. So did that all for our teenage years, and then kind of got into the D&B and the raving and stuff, and then I guess that's where the production started. But we were kind of messing around with kind of 4 tracks and stuff, before ever getting into the computer music side of things. So yeah, done it a long time together, but always done it together.
Brilliant. Would you
I
say
think
that it's part of a characteristic of of you two as brothers, and like music kind of bonded you in that type of way? Because that's something I could really relate to with my brother.
probably to a certain degree. I mean, I think dub was like the thing that drew us towards drum and bass, really. Um,
Right.
so I think it's weird. I was chatting to someone recently, and they were like, "How did you get into drum and bass?" And I was like, "Well, I got into dub. I got into hip hop. We were always playing in bands, but then we were getting into like the way it used to be when you'd buy albums and you were a teenager and you couldn't just download or stream whatever. You'd be very kind of. We were all into like guitar bands. And I remember buying a album by Primal Scream because I think Manny had just joined them from the Stone Roses, and there was a lot of
Ah.
dub on it. And I was reading interviews with them, and they were talking about this dub music, and I was like, "Well, I've got to check out some dub. Like, who go and to the record shop and buy some dub music?" And I really thought that was really cool. And there was a lot of hip hop kind of. We were into kind of hip hop as well at the same time. Um, yeah, and then I think I remember like a lot of my mates were getting really into like house and trance and stuff, and I wasn't really into that because it didn't really have good bass lines, like dub. But then you could just where we live, you could just get Cool FM Midlands, which
Oh
was based in
wow.
Birmingham. So we discovered that, and we'd kind of drive around in our cars at about 17, smoke billowing out the windows, say no more, and and you could tune into Cool FM, and I just thought it was really cool, like the variety of different musics that would get and different styles of like drum and bass. That would have been in the kind of late 90s, kind of early north, well, probably the late 90s, kind of. But there was people like Hazard was playing on there, and one I can remember. But we used to record cassettes off it, and then by discovered there was a big scene in Leicester. Quite an active scene at the time with a lot of
Mm.
producers, DJs, nights, you know, every single weekend, if not multiple. Um, so yeah, that was kind of, it was like, oh wow, and it's going on our kind of in our city on our doorstep. So that,
Brilliant. Yeah. With some of the most important propagators of the genre in that type of way, like SS and stuff like that, and Formation Records, the Midlands has always had a really kind of thriving heartbeat in that way for the underground. It was an important spot for people in the north, for people in North Wales as well. Like it had a big, big catchment area for those raves. What was that epiphany like getting into drum and bass?
uh, amazing, really. It was just like kind of a family thing. And I think, there was, you had all the formation nights going on, and then you had Alex APB who worked for Formation, him and John Maverick, who they had a night with a couple of the people. Biggie from Birmingham would come over and MC with Maverick, and their night was called Sonic Boom, and like everyone loved that. It was a venue called the Charlotte. There was a night called Trisect, which was quite mixed genre, but they used to get some big drum and bass people in. There was a night called
Genetic
Genetic.
formation nights at the uni.
Yeah, the
Yeah, they were big
formation nights
nights.
at the uni were huge, and you would meet people from all over the place. A lot of people. I remember once me and one of my friends, Nick, we were walking up there, and these two guys asked us the way, and we were like, "Well, yeah, we can show you the way. We're going there ourselves. Come and get a lift." We jumped in the back of their car and got chatting to them, and they'd come down from Manchester for it. So, now it seems quite strange, but they were huge, huge nights. And what really stood out for me I thought, was like Leicester's a very, very, very multicultural city. And when I was living in the city, and I live very close to the city now and work in the city, you, back then it would always be different kind of races almost would go to different spots to go out. But when you
Yeah.
went to drum and bass nights, it struck me that it was like just a real blend of cultures and ethnic backgrounds, and it felt really inclusive, and it made the street kind of make sense to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Completely, completely. It broke down barriers in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what people would say about rave and acid house anyway. But that was for me. It's like, this is a hugely positive and exciting thing that I want to be part of, and I loved the music. It was, and
Yeah.
getting into that. For me, probably still the peak of drum and bass in many ways. The main room kind of drum and bass was that early noughties period where you had kind of Bad Company coming through, but you had the early hospital stuff, that kind of second wave of Liquid, and
Yeah, second wave of jump up as well, with like the kind of the development of the Bristol sound, with like new people like Clips coming in
oh
and
yeah,
Hazard as well, D Mines. So I've got goosebumps now. Like so
yeah,
many anthems were made during that era,
yeah,
really, weren't
yeah,
they?
yeah. I mean, yeah, and obviously in Leicester we had a lot of people, like top producers that SS had gathered around Formation, who were doing really well. So, we had like Generation Dub, Taxman, um,
Twisted.
Rob Sparks, APB, and there was other people kind of on the periphery. So the techno artist Roberto, he was playing like Liquid. He was originally a Liquid producer and DJ,
Right.
and he's released techno on Goldie's label. It's like wow.
Yeah.
He plays in Bahrain and stuff. He's a Leicester native, and then yeah, Tonnage, the dubstep artist, he was at uni in Leicester at that time, and he was doing a bit of stuff with Rob Sparks,
Right.
drum and bass. So he was like a friend. ADM, who's in Bristol, does the night in Bristol now. He's an incredible producer. Um, and he was in Leicester. So there was a whole crowd of people who were DJs producing, and it was quite interesting because it was pre-YouTube. So I remember because I went to De Montfort in Leicester to do music technology, and I did my dissertation kind of research on the history of drum and bass production. And at that time, no one had written a thing about it really.
Wow.
So a lot of it was like primary research. But now you get bombarded on YouTube with techniques, but then it was just like, what can you make show you, or what samples can you make give you? Like,
Yeah. There was so much more kind of mythology and things that you wanted to learn, and even just down to identifying tracks could sometimes take up to a year or two, really. So, Adam, were you on the same journey here, or were you up in university in Leeds and stuff at this point?
No, I was definitely still about at that point. Yeah, I mean, you said the word kind of epiphany earlier, and I think there was one record which always sticks out in my mind. It was like an epiphany. So it was one of Formation's World of Drum and Bass CDs, and somehow got hold of this. But yeah, just having it on my little Discman, and it just kind of popped into your ears. And the title of it, "Enter," the first track, it just had this sort of female vocal, "Enter the World of Drum and Bass," and that's exactly what it did for me. It's just it just like, what is this music?
Go on. And you can hear all of those influences. You just listed loads of different things there. And I think you can hear all of those influences now on the output of Fight or Flight. And I mean, has this passion remained consistent in all the years in between, then your raving kind of, dawning of music and that culture for you and production and getting into it 20 years ago, and then kind of the launch of the label in 2020? Or did life take you in other ways, like jobs, relationships, kind of these things like that early passion as teenagers? And obviously we're building up to the launch of Fight or Flight, but I'm wondering, there's a huge 20-year gap gap here in between. So I'm wondering if music filled that up as much as possible.
I think it waxes and wanes to a certain point, and life gets in the way at times. But yeah, we both. I studied music production in Leeds. That's what moved me up to Yorkshire. So that was kind of 3 more years of just making drum and bass intensely. Reality kind of hits after that, and you need to get a job and stuff, so you have less time for it. But we started doing. I can't remember when we started the whole soul based project thing, but we kind of both thought, obviously living in different parts of the country, but you've got very good internet obviously by this point, and we kind of felt we're at our best when we're sort of helping each other, and we'll always we'll talk about music more than anything else. It's just what we bond over. Can you remember what year we actually started doing the soul based project thing, Matt?
No idea. To answer Dave's question, yes, music's always been a huge part of my life. Going back to that, and it's never waned. I've not always had the time because of doing jobs that I didn't want to do, particularly working as a hotel manager. That was pretty vile.
Oof, yeah.
Yeah, when I stopped doing that, I was like, the only thing I want to do now is a job that I get up every day and do something to do with music, and that's what I do. So, yeah, and what I would say as well, as much as I've always been into dance music, all of the previous loves that I've always had of the other things, I still love. Equally, I love working with bands, recording bands in studio. I love all kinds of music still, and I think that's something that's often overlooked in dance music, that originally
Hugely.
people would all sound different because they would be bringing in all the different influences. That's why Pesce sounded different to Goldie, to Dillinger sounded different to whoever.
Bozak,
You know what
and
I mean?
yeah,
You go
yeah,
through
yeah. It's really important to kind of urge any young producer, and I'm sure you must do as a lecturer, to listen as widely and as avidly and as hungrily as possible, really, and with no kind of preconceptions or barriers or anything like that. Soak it up as much as we can. And I think, we have become far too genre specific, really, in that type of way, like dance music has in general. I think human beings have, because there's so much choice, we've needed categories and labels, and these categories have sub categories. And sometimes some people think they're being quite open minded about music, but they're still only listening to one or two genres, really, in a way. And I think it's so important to have that wide, healthy appetite for music, which sounds like you've got as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. There's the way I've always tried to look at music. There was a time when I was a very young teenager where if it didn't have someone playing a guitar on it, I wasn't going to buy it.
I did the same. I did the same as a teenager with rave music. I was instantly dismissed it until I was introduced to the Prodigy, on a very poignant night, which literally changed my life. But then, as I became this kind of ardent, like gung ho militant raver, I wouldn't listen to anything else other than electronic music, and I discounted a hell of a lot of funk and soul and rock and all these things for about five years, I'd say, until I opened my mind and got back into everything. But I think you almost need to go that extreme for a little while, really, to
Yeah,
explore
probably.
your passions, isn't it?
Yeah, the Prodigy as well were a gateway drug, I think, for many a raver as well, weren't they?
Yeah, they brought the worlds together. They brought the worlds together, really. With like, for me, it was their law. It was the guitars chugging on their law. And the minute they came on, and my mate who was playing it to us was looking at me when they came on, because he knew that that would be my turning point. And I was like, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? This is amazing. This is amazing. And he's like, give me a hug, basically. He was like, I knew you'd like this. Yeah, welcome on board. Welcome to the raving firm. I was like, hang on, I don't know about that. By the end of the album, I didn't want to listen to anything with guitars on it for the rest of the night or anything. It all started to sound weird so quickly. So that's brilliant. You both pursued music as much as possible, as much as life has allowed you to. And Soul Based Project then has been the result of that. And did it take you a while to find your sound together? And there's definitely, the minute you said dub, that completely made sense. Soul Based Project is definitely on the deeper side of things and the musical side of things.
It's weird because a lot of the release stuff is more on the musical side, because I think that's the nature of the labels we've released with. Um, there is a lot of stuff that we've made that spans all kinds of stuff. I mean, we've done obviously a lot more dubstep than drum and bass, and we've just the last Soul Bass project release is a 130 garage, release as well.
Mm.
But I personally I don't see any difference between any of them except tempo. It's like I played in a band, I didn't play everything at the same tempo. I didn't play the same groove. So
Yeah.
they're different grooves at different tempos. To me, really, they're essentially all the same thing. They're like this British offshoot that's got techno, house, drum, hip hop, dub mixed up in a big pot.
I'm just looking at my notes now. One of my favorite tracks of yours is not a deep musical one at all. It's the one on the first VA that you released on Fight or Flight, which is the Fight Back, that's a gully tune. Like, I mean, that's not a kind of deep or musical one in any type of way, is it?
No, I made that one. I think that was my. Well, I'm glad you like it actually.
That's a banger. It's a banger, and I'm going to buy the VA. And like I'd meant to buy it prior to interviewing you guys, but let's get to the label and the whole
mm,
reason for the label. I mean, the conversation is going to take a bit more of a kind of serious tone now. But
yeah,
did
yeah.
you ever envision launching a label, or was the label strictly set up because of the circumstances that it was set up for?
It was probably something in my mind that I would have liked to have done at some point, but as you say, the circumstances involved, it was kind of like, well, now's the time, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
get on with it, and there was a good reason to do it. Being quite aware as well, from having friends who have done very well in the game. There's not that much money in the game unless you want to be out on the road.
yeah.
Um, you know, it doesn't feel a huge thing to do without making any money off it personally, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's a hell of a lot of effort. I can attest to that. Today's been a release day for us, and
oh well,
it's hard, isn't it? Really, I mean, any type of kind of there's a maximum effort goes in, and nobody does it for a return. It's nice when there is a bit of a return. I mean, in particular, I don't want to just have a label conversation. Was this an instant reaction, or did it kind of build up over time? And I mean, it launched in July 2020, but I think, you were diagnosed with brain cancer in 2019, correct?
yeah, May.
Right, so it was a whole year. The label actually
Um,
kind of launched officially a whole year after your diagnosis, then.
yeah, I mean, I think in May it was. Yeah, it was obviously really fresh, and then like I had to have quite a lot of treatment, well, loads of treatment, because yeah, I would so yeah, it was. I can't remember the timeline too well, but I was off work for 9 months. Um, no, I thought at the time I'd never go back to work, so it was like, oh well, it would be good to do this, and obviously when I was put in a coma and it was all very weird. What
Wow.
happened then? Like, so, I'd come home from work on a Monday and my football team had won the league, around mine and Adam's football team the night before. So I think I'd gone for a couple of beers the night before on a Sunday night. And I was just thinking, oh, near the end of the year, just tired because I'm like, was lecturing. Um, you know, probably mildly hungover. um,
Yeah.
and got home from work and I just remember feeling really, really hot and going for a sleep. And then I woke up, I can't remember how many days later it was in intensive care, which was very, very strange, as you can
Oh,
imagine.
wow.
um, and yeah, and I think it was, it was once I kind of got over the initial kind of shock, I suppose, and there's various things happening.
So
I
what are your
kind of
memories
on
of
that
when you kind
journey.
of came around then and you kind of like, yeah, how did you feel? Or when did it hit you that, what had happened in that type of way? Or is
Um,
that just a really kind of mad blur? Because the brain is quite kind in how it remembers things sometimes, isn't it?
yes, yeah, that exactly that. It's quite a blur to this day. And also, I was let's face it, I was doped out of my mind because I was on so many drugs. Um,
Yeah.
and it took a while to get the medication right. So my mind was stable, and they took me off medication too quickly, and my brain started swelling up, which was insanely painful. Um,
Oh,
um,
wow.
um,
Wow. So,
uh,
Adam, can I ask you? Sorry to
yeah, Adam
interrupt
might
there,
know
Matt,
more
but
than me, to be
yeah, I
honest.
kind of want to go through it as slowly as we can, and not rush through things, and really kind of learn from your experiences there. But Adam, this must be like a harrowing time for you as a brother.
Yeah, yeah, completely. It was just, came literally a bolt out of the blue. My parents called me. I just got home from work one day and it's like, Matt's in intensive care. And we discovered that he's got this glioblastoma. I obviously got down to Leicester as quickly as I could, didn't know whether Matt was going to wake up, if he did wake up, you know, what sort of condition he'd be in, what he would remember, you just don't know. So yeah, it was just a just a crazy massive shock. Yeah, just mad.
Yeah, and it was now 6 years ago, during which the world has turned inside out. We've had lockdowns and stuff, but that even feels like ages ago. But the world has completely changed. Many, many other things have happened since then. But at the time, when you kind of settled and the NHS or the doctors understood kind of where you were at, you were given or predicted, they said that it might be as short as 18 months. And that was 6 years ago.
Yeah, 12
So,
to
I mean,
18.
congratulations. That's mind blowing in itself. But how did you feel when you were given that type of news, Matt?
Pretty depressed initially, I think. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember because they thought I might be when I was in the coma. I'd been told that they thought I might be paralysed down my right hand side because I wasn't showing much movement. Now, luckily, I wasn't in my leg, but I was in my hand, and I do remember specifically feeling there's no way I'm being paralysed in my hands. I want to, because being a guitarist, I want to play
Yeah.
the guitar. And I remember one day, and I got sent to, yeah, one day I was like trying to, because it was my right hand, I'm right handed, and I was trying to play, think it was, I wanted to be able to play Stairway to Heaven again by Led Zeppelin, the one band from, but that I remember at the start of one day not being able to play it. And then by the end of the day being able to play it, and I was like, "Oh, my
Oh,
finger's
wow.
back."
Hey, wow.
I also
Go on.
remember the tune you mentioned earlier, making that and not being able to use my right hand on the mouse and doing
Oh,
it all with my
wow.
left hand on a trackpad on my laptop.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so yeah, that was a quite a thing. But I went for one session of physio, and they said, "Oh, you're fine. You just need to build a bit more strength back with it." So music. I've I've always felt music, no matter what tough spot I've been in my life, has saved me. No matter what, I believe
Yeah,
in
go on.
music. I believe in music. I love teaching young people music. I love teaching anyone of any age music. I believe in its power to do things to our minds, to unite us, to bring us together. I don't think there's a stronger force, like when they've done brain like scans, CT scans or whatever, people improvising music. No other activity shows to light up the brain more than music. So, um,
Wow.
I think the power of music is and we like music predominantly with no words, but it speaks to
Yeah.
you on such a deep level. It's 12 notes, but it's not, is it? It's something deeper than that.
Yeah.
Um, and
Wow.
I've always believed in music, and that was probably why I wanted to set up a label to use the power of music to do something positive for the world, really, because
Yeah.
brain tumor, the funding for brain tumor research is about 3% of all funding. Yeah,
Wow.
it's I think it's one of the biggest killers of people under 40 in the UK. So it's quite disproportionate, um, how much funding goes into it, and it's not really progressed at all. And like with my brain tumor, because of where it is on my brain, they can't remove it. So I can't have surgery to remove it.
Right. So if they did, they would damage other aspects of the
Yeah,
brain,
well,
which
yeah,
you'd no longer
potentially,
be
yeah,
able to.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because there's something that we spoke about just before I press record, and it's something that I'm more knowledgeable about than I was a couple of years ago.
Mm,
And that's um, my best friend had cancer.
mm,
Obviously, as I explained to you before, he's actually recovered. But I mean, it was terrifying enough just as a best friend to see him go through it. But what was really encouraging is he was explaining like the processes, and the levels that the really really minuscule details that they go into in terms of amounts. Now this is a different form of cancer in a different part of the body, so his experience would have been very different to you. But it blew my mind how developed the processes and the treatments are, and how much intelligence and brains there are in the NHS and within, kind of medical studies and stuff like that. It's not like the type of cancer that we saw growing up on the TV or kind of grew up type of understanding. Now, with that in mind about kind of the lack of funding in brain tumors and the kind of this side of cancer, did that kind of how was it for you, the whole experience, kind of being treated and being at the receiving end of this type of kind of level of medication?
I mean, firstly, I just want to say the NHS and all its staff, from its porters to its, doctors, they are incredible. And anyone who ever complains about the NHS is wrong. They don't get paid enough and they don't get enough funding. But the NHS, and for us to have that as a country, is incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I know that from first-hand experience. But yeah, I mean, in terms of my treatment, I've had 30 days of radiotherapy and 72 days of chemo. Um, so initially, I had a 6-week period where Monday to Friday I was having um, radiotherapy, and you have to have a mask built, and they pin you down on a mask so you can't move, which is quite weird when you first have it, but you soon get used to it.
Wow. Wow. Of
Progressively,
course, because
that
they've got to
gets,
they've got to target the very precise area, haven't they?
absolutely,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
hadn't even thought about that, because obviously with my friend, he had a little tattoo where they had to direct it and everything like
yeah,
that. This would have been in your head. Oh my
yeah.
word, that must have been so uncomfortable and just an unpleasant experience,
But
just no
it's
matter how
quite a
developed the
short,
treatments are.
yeah, it's quite short radiotherapy though. So I think it was only you were only in there for a few minutes, and the
Okay.
radiographers, they're lovely as well. They're just nice people, and you get to know them. And they're like, "How are you doing today?" Like, it's weird.
Oh,
But I was having to take a small dose of chemo every day. So luckily, I've never had to be on the drip. It was like I can't remember what they're called now. Um, it's not something I hold on to. Um,
no.
but but yeah, so I was having to have a small dose of chemo every day, and then I went through 6 months where once I had a 5-day period where I had to take like a strong like oral pills chemo, which is it tastes like licking batteries. If you've ever had the displeasure of licking a battery, yes, it's
I have
kind of
licked one before.
probably why I ended up with a brain tumor. But but uh, yeah, right. They were really weird. They knocked you about a bit if you weren't careful, because I always remember taking them and I had to have like a slice of toast about an hour after I'd taken them. And if I didn't, I'd be really, really unwell.
Oh
And I think I
wow.
was going back into hospital once. But to be honest with you, the other 3 weeks were really good. And I probably wrote the best music I've ever had in my life in those 3 weeks, because it was like, no more messing around with loops, mate. Get some
Yeah.
tunes knocked out. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
Wow.
and got some stuff released on quite a decent, a US dubstep label, that Dank and Dirty Dubs, which we still release on to this day. Made good relationships with Sashwat, big up Sashwat. It was fantastic, man. Yeah, so it was yeah, that it was fine. I mean, the weird one was I was because basically that when the way that I was rushed into hospital because I'd had a load of seizures, and I'm officially classed as epileptic. Um, so I couldn't drive for 2 years, which initially didn't bother me. But then when I started working, it did, and I was having to get there's a thing called access to work that you can access, um, and yeah, I was getting that into work, and that was just a pain. Um, and then I got my license back after 2 years, and then the only other time I've had a seizure, I'm just going to touch my wooden desk here, was I'm not superstitious, but I just always feel like with that, I need
Yeah.
to. Yeah, I had a seizure after about 6 months, and then I couldn't drive for another year, and yeah, it's long. Like when you if you don't live in a city, particularly, not that transport links are great in cities now anyway, but if you don't live in a city and you really feel like your wings have been clipped a bit.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
um,
Like living in a rural area in South Wales, that's definitely the
or
case, really, with like
yeah,
public transport and stuff like that.
yeah.
So you were making music then all the way through. Was there any point really, obviously besides when you're in a coma? I mean, was there a gap, or did you just because of
No,
what you're
I
saying about the
was,
healing power of music, you just
yeah,
got
I
back straight
was.
on it?
So, I mentioned that they took me off medication too early and my brain started swelling. I'd had a
Yeah.
biopsy at Queen's in Nottingham, Queen's Medical Centre. Um, and the ward you get put on when you have anything to do with your brain is what they call, I think it's like the neuro ward. Now, the neuro ward covers all types of brain injuries, conditions, whatever. So it's not people who have just got a brain tumor. It's, literally everything. And
Wow.
that was disturbing. I won't go, no disrespect to anyone who's in there, and the nurses in there are amazing. Not probably enough that they need because there's people that don't know where their bed is, so they're coming into your bed all night. I couldn't sleep the whole time I was in there, so I asked my
Wow.
parents to bring my laptop in with my partner, um, and they brought my laptop in, and I was writing probably that tune, the Fight Back one, in
Wow.
its
Oh,
medical centre on headphones in the middle
wow.
of the night. I remembered it, being sat up and doing it. Um,
Wow, go on. So I mean, I've highlighted a really kind of pivotal tune in your kind of history, really, or during this stage, without
I personally
realizing.
don't rate it, but
I think it's the emotional connection. There's something about it which really hit me when I was listening to it. But maybe you don't rate it because it reminds you of kind of this era, or the classic, like you wrote you're your own worst critic in that type of
maybe.
way. So did you, when you were given the time limit, or not time limit, but predicted kind of span of things by the doctor? I mean, I'm putting myself in your shoes. I probably would
Mhm.
have made a note of, right, what's that date? And then I've, counted down with a bit of gloom, but also like, I am going to get past that date. I'm going to, right, nobody's going to tell me how long I've fucking got. And I mean, I guess we're fight or flight, and the name of that first compilation, "Survival is an Instinct," and the kind of positive attitude that you have. How did you set about that when you were given those dates? Was that the type of kind of, nope, I'm going to outlast that, or how did you feel with that, and how did you
Um,
approach that?
I felt a bit like a boxer who'd been knocked down in a fight but gets up. That's how I felt. That would be the analogy I'd use.
Yeah,
Yeah, boxer on
yeah.
the ropes. Muhammad Ali on the ropes against George Foreman. Like,
Honestly, Matt was like a man possessed. It was just like, I'm going to beat this fucking cancer. I'm going to make loads of tunes. And honestly, became so prolific overnight, and just, production quality, everything just went to another level. And then it's like, yeah, and I'm going to start a record label called Fight and Flight Recordings, and we're going to
Brilliant.
make money for Brain Tumor Charity. And it's just like, honestly, it's so inspiring. It's just absolutely fucking incredible.
Yeah.
And that positive mindset, it's encapsulated in the name. It's just amazing.
I think a big part of it comes from my partner Sarah, though. She's like, we never give up. She's my biggest advocate, and
Brilliant.
I don't think I'd be here, without her positive mindset. She's like, Matt, we don't give up. We they've
Yeah.
got this, we're going to find out what else as well. And weirdly, like sadly no longer with us, her old boss Lee, who's a similar age to me, he had cancer and sadly he died from it. But he was very much kind of like, you know, an amazing guy who I got to meet. And I'm sure if we'd grown up, a little bit closer to one another, we would have been really good friends. And we became very close. Like, as I did with a few people who have died now, actually. But from cancer. But if you were similar age and you've got similar interests and stuff, but he was very stoic and like, right up until the end of his life, bless him. Um, and kind of trying everything, like literally, okay, that's what the medical people say, and we'll go with that, but there's probably other things as well. And Sarah
Yeah.
very much like that, my partner. Um, so I think those things all kind of add up, and the Brain Tumor Charity, a lot of their research is researching these alternative things that, people hear about anecdotally. Um,
What have you found? What besides the treatment that's been prescribed to you? What other alternatives and avenues have you explored? And you must
uh,
have learned so much about how the brain works, and just really explored and appreciated and understand the value of what we carry in our skulls, and how important it is to how we survive and function and think and exist.
um, well, I started doing yoga weirdly. My partner was doing it, and I started doing it because I'm too tall for NHS beds, so I had a
Oh,
terrible bad back.
oh no.
Um, and I started doing yoga, and I think that led me to other looking, believing in other things. And I think that calm that yoga and meditation brings is incredible. When you first get into it, amazing. I think it's never to be overlooked. Um, but yeah, like there's a lot of I take turmeric every day because it's a anti inflammatory. I take a mushroom formula every day. There's a few other things I take. If anyone who listens to this wants to know more about it, they can get in contact with me and I'll happily discuss it with anyone. Hit me up, anyone always willing to discuss, help, whatever. Um, Anyway I can. But yeah, I remember once me and Sarah went to this, it was like a wellness convention in Birmingham. And Sarah reads a lot and she's very interested in that. She's got a business called Inhale Excel that she does where she sells like things to aid people with mindfulness and such like.
Oh
Just
wow.
big up Sarah's business while I'm on there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll put a link to that for sure. Like, I mean, I
Um,
was going to say, like, mindfulness is a really important thing. So, what did you
yeah.
find at the wellness
Yeah, so we found this
exhibition?
Dr. David Hamilton, and basically he told his story, and he he was trained in medicine, and he got he got people telling him about what I'm going to classify as hippie stuff, and he was like, "Science can prove that wrong. I'll show you." I mean, I don't think he quite said it like that, but he started to carry out scientific research on these things, and amazingly, he found that he couldn't disprove them, and he could actually prove that they worked. There were so many
That's
examples.
brilliant.
So one of the ones that he said about in this talk was a lady who had had a certain type of cancer, who had created this really personal visualization that was completely personal to her, about her removing the cancer from herself. So I thought, well, I'm going to have a go at that. But me being me, I was like, and I'm going to do it to some music, and that music is going to be Music by LTJ Buckham, because it's I love that track. Um, so I created this visualization in my own mind of me being put into a kind of science fiction mine shaft, um, where I had my brain was like a golden object, and I was using like a pickaxe and shovels and stuff, and shoveling all this, I suppose, dirt, cancer off my golden brain, loading it all into a wagon. And then I had to like push the wagon up these steep tracks. And weirdly, down below the tracks, it was really dangerous, and I was balancing on like the sleepers, and you could hear all these groans of people in pain in this like abyss, basically. Um,
Wow.
and I had
So
to
your
like
mind
push,
was conjuring this then, as you were
yeah,
kind of visualizing it, then your brain was kind of filling in your imagination and your thoughts
yeah.
create
I always
filled
had
in
quite a
these kind
visual
of
brain.
details.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
so I see sound quite being linked with colour, and our
Right.
dad's a painter and he was an art teacher, so it maybe comes from conversations as a teenager with him comparing, almost talking about the same thing when we're talking about music and painting. So
Right.
Adam's a pretty good painter as well, um, but I'm not.
Your
But
creativity exists within the musical
yeah,
realm.
Adam's a bit good at everything. He's one of those.
uh, my
Uh,
younger brother's a bit like that as well, actually. Like,
I've got certain words for it about it, so so what I like about
so
say
you because you had
suitable.
the sounds of the groans, like people groaning underneath you. Then almost like I don't know the sound of their like. Is that was that your pain being kind of reflected,
Perhaps,
or
perhaps I've never analysed that personally. I've just kind of gone, yeah. So I would say well over a year, like every night, I would put on my headphones, get Bookham on, and do my visualization. And literally, I could tell you all the different like points in the tune where different things happened.
wow,
Really
wow?
odd. I know that
Do you
tune's
still do
coming.
that now?
I could probably do it, but I don't do it. I don't really have time because I've got babies. um,
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
time to
guess this
do
was
it.
earlier on where
Yeah,
you were still kind of within that kind of diagnosis that was given to you. You were still that was still closer then, so I guess more of a kind of
yeah,
sense of priority. You've got a different sense of scale and stuff now, really, I would imagine, being so far into your life after that point was given to you, if you know what I mean.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I still have to have a lot of appointments. I seem to collect consultants rather than get rid of them because radiation with stays in your body. So I suffer quite badly from fatigue. So I have to see endocrinology because it's a hormone thing. Um, and I have to see a neurologist because I'm officially epileptic. And yeah, so there's a few things and it stays with you, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, but you do have a much bigger sense of distance. So I have to go for like a 6 monthly MRI scan, and I used to get really worked up about them, and now I'm just like, and weirdly, I didn't like needles before. I had a really bad experience with the dentist once. I was fine with them, and then I had a bad experience with the dentist, and I was awful with them. But no, I'm just like, yeah, stick it in, get on with it. Like, having bloods done and all the rest of it. So yeah, it is just very much kind of part of life, but it doesn't intrude too much. It's the fatigue, like that's the thing that does. Occasionally, like I don't go out like I did. Like when I go out, I go out with people who I speak to regularly because sometimes it can be a bit annoying when you go out and you might go for, I don't know, just down the pub or whatever, which I don't really do much anymore. But people will be like, "How are you?" And you're like, "Yeah, all right, mate. How are you?" Like kind of as you do, and
Yeah.
then they'll be like, "But how are you?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Are you?" Like, and it's just like, I want to talk
Uh,
about it. I would. I don't want to talk with you when you're half cut on a Friday night, thanks, mate. But it's
yeah,
a bit
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Like, you just want to. I'm not like a bucket list type person. I just want to be. be the best version of me possible and just get on with my life, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. So no swimming with dolphins then, or anything
No, I
like
mean, I wouldn't turn that down. I love dolphins when I have the chance to come
that.
through. Yeah, I'm
I
not
think
like,
that's so important. Like, with running a label is a kind of bucket list thing, really, in a way, in that type of way, or just that you're seeing how far you can take things. And like you said, like being the best version of yourself, I think that's the perfect way to kind of see it, really, isn't it? And make sure that you're kind of true to that. Do you think the wellness and the things that you've kind of gone through and learned, and with your partner as well, has that given you seem incredibly kind of, yeah, just yeah, mindful, like, you seem very stress free, you seem like very relaxed and pragmatic and open minded and positive about things. Is that just the wellness stuff, the meditation, the yoga, and all of these things which you've included into your lifestyle and a part of your lifestyle?
well, I'll tell a lie. Well, I'll tell the truth, but not so much anymore, because 20 months ago I had baby twins. So you don't have much time for that kind of thing, but the
No.
joy they bring, and weirdly, I was dead against it when I was first diagnosed, because it was something that was in our mind before I was diagnosed. Um, but various things and happened, and um, it helped. I, and some people may think, God, that's selfish, and I get that, and I dread the day when I have to have that conversation with them and say, the whole of your life,
Oh,
I've actually,
wow.
it's not something I look forward to, but at the same time, I've got a good family around me, got fantastically supportive parents. My partner's got very supportive parents. We didn't really plan on it being twins, but we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
So that's like a whole nother aspect to life, which has probably slowed the label down a bit in the last years when you look at the last release date to now. But it
You do it
will.
when you can, really, isn't it? And I mean, yeah, if I take my mind back to that kind of transition into fatherhood, there's nothing like it, really. And especially with twins, like most of us go through it with one child and then another child and ease ourselves in. But any of my friends who have twins, and you've got a supportive brother as well. So I mean, Adam, how is it for you just listening to this conversation and stuff? And I mean, I worry that I'm always prying or being intrusive or being rude. But I think this is an amazing story for the world to know. So I put those feelings to the side and try and find out, what I think the world should know about. How does it feel to you? Kind of, you're reliving a lot of this. And again, as a brother, like, if I was kind of sitting watching somebody interview my brother, if he was in Matt's situation, I don't know how I'd feel. So how is, kind of listening to all of this again felt for you and being part of this?
It's, yeah, it's quite amazing, really. I mean, my overriding emotion is I'm immensely proud of my brother. It's just like the stuff he's
Yeah.
achieved is just incredible. Putting aside the music, he's father to these beautiful little twins now, and that's just the most amazing thing. We didn't see that coming in 2019.
Yeah.
And yeah, just yeah, to do the label, it's such a kind of thing of joy, and wherever I can kind of help and support that and advise, and however I can help, I'm obviously more than happy to do it. It's an amazing cause. As Matt says, this desperately needs money, but it's a project of passion first and foremost. So yeah, I think it's pride overall. I mean, it's obviously tinged with a lot of sadness, and it takes you back to some real kind of tough moments. And I think as we got COVID and the lockdowns and stuff, and that was really hard, because we went from trying to see each other as much as we possibly could, not knowing how long potentially we'd have to do that. Then we couldn't see anyone. So thank God we've come out the other side of that. But yeah, I mean, thinking about the timing of the label, I guess we were doing a lot during that first lockdown. I mean, that whole period's just such a blur now, so
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was one
You
of the
kind of
big
forget it,
things.
don't you? But I guess that was a really kind of positive thing to be able to work on to get us through that situation, which obviously everyone was going through.
Yeah. I mean, how was that in terms of seeing consultants and going through your kind of treatment and stuff? Because I know that, it had a huge effect. That was the biggest, kick in the, to the NHS was COVID and the way that they were treated. I mean, I know we went through that whole kind of clapping on the street thing, but most people I know who work for the NHS were, saw that for the political tool that it was really. And, the NHS was really under so much pressure then. Did that affect like kind of what you were going through in a way?
Well, luckily for me, I think the lockdown came in March 2020, and I just finished my treatment in Feb the
Oh,
month
wow.
before. So I remember
Wow.
me and my dad went to the League Cup final at Wembley, and it was starting to become a concern then. But I think my view to COVID was, I've just got through this. I'm not letting a cold kill me
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
easily. And I know it wasn't the cold, and that sounds really disrespectful to anyone who's got lost family
No. I know what you
to
mean though completely. Did
COVID.
you ever
But
get it or did you stay really did you
I've had it
shield?
twice. I've
Right.
had it twice. Weirdly, the tune on Fight or Flight Digio 1 that I wrote, Impressions, I made when I had COVID. So I was locked in a
Wow.
vacuum. Um, so I wasn't very well, but whenever I was well, I started doing it. I was listening to loads of Photech at the time. I won't talk about the tune that I tried to rip off. Um,
You were heavily
but yeah,
inspired by.
I'm not Photech. But it did really well actually. Sorry, I'm just gonna take my jacket off. But yeah, I was trying to like basically take a load of breaks and make my own break, which I did. Um, and yeah, I did get it. I got it again about a year ago actually, and it made me quite ill again. But I didn't write a whole tune this time, sadly. It wasn't as productive as the first time round, but seems like I maybe make good music when I'm ill. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's that extra edge that it gives you
I
in
think
that
I've
type
called the
of
break
way.
though. I think I've still got it in my sample folders. It's called the Rona break. Um,
The Rona break, brilliant. That's cool. That's cool. Have you got releases lined up, or has fatherhood really kind of taken you, fatherhood, life, work, everything, really kind of taken you on another path? And will there be more releases soon or anything?
there definitely will be more releases. I can't give you an exact time frame, but we are thinking about doing another compilation album. And I've spoken to a few people, but nowhere near the amount of people I do want to ask about giving us a tune because we're always asking people to give away something. Normally, I think the first release, the Survival is Instinct, was just like I created a group, I think, on Facebook with all kinds of people I just know, and just said, "Has anyone got any scrags they want to send us that haven't been signed or
Mm,
whatever?" And we just compiled this weird amalgamation of bass music, which I actually think works quite well. And
yeah.
Yeah, big up Bob Mack on the mastering with that to kind of pull together such a disparate bunch of
yeah,
tunes is incredible.
I think it
yeah,
works really, really well. I think it's a great kind of, a statement and a reflection of you guys. Like the minute you were telling me about your musical stories, your musical foundations, that whole compilation made even more sense to me. And it made sense to me anyway. And I'm a very eclectic minded person, but there's a consistency through it. And, I don't think there's many scrags on there at all,
no,
really.
well, that's what I asked for. What I got given wasn't that. I know some of them, some of them were, I thought I'd love some of the tracks. I think they're brilliant. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I'm interested in doing. I think a compilation, some ways, is really difficult because you've got a lot of artists, people to deal with, but you tend to get more focused, and you also tend to get more people helping you with promotion, which is incredibly helpful. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've tapped up a few people. who have said, yeah, I've definitely got something for you. I'm going to speak to a lot more.
Can
When
I
I,
tap up some people for you? Can I turn to the camera and go, yo, on this social media clip, we are asking for tunes for the next Fight or Flight compilation. And you need to, if you're a producer and you've got something in mind, please get in touch or something like that. Like,
yeah,
can I help make noise about that?
100%, yeah, if anyone, whether I know, we're very open about what we do. It would be great, me and Adam ran a night together, something we didn't mention, in Leicester,
Oh, wow.
about 3, 4 years. Um, we forgot to mention that when we were going through the nights. We used to run a Sunday night, liquid night, when it was still underground.
Sunday
Brilliant.
Amen. I still think it's the best name for a drum and bass.
Oh,
um,
amazing. I mean, this is when rave culture was so strong that Sunday nights could work, really. I don't think there's not many
it
Sunday
was
nights
in a
that even work
bar.
in London.
Yeah, it was in a bar. It was, but it used to be all of the heads would come down and everyone would pay for a few red stripes. It wasn't, it was just purely for the love of it. But that's where we made so many contacts. And people come down and MC, and yeah, it was great. It was great, great night. It'd be great to do some nights, so if anyone, we're very open, like kind of, if anyone's got any ideas they can use us for a vehicle for, you know, to raise money for the Brain Tumor Charity is the one we've raised all our money for so far. What Frankie did for us, the Country Motion night,
Mm,
that was kind of like, she's done it for a few different charities, and she was like, yeah, we'll do one for the through Fight or Flight for the Brain Tumor Charity, and she had the great idea of, or maybe we could do a tune giveaway for donation, and so we're really open about what we do. Um, and I think we've got a good platform. We're like a limited organisation. We've got like Pascal, his distribution company is now a distributor. So we're pretty set up to do things. We just need to, yeah. I think a compilation will probably be the next thing. I've got some ideas, which hopefully
brilliant.
some
I've got
may
some
some may
artists.
free.
I've got some artists, and I want to send them your way. Really, I know at least one. I'm just going to say this on the interview now. I know that I can give you a Lakeway tune. Without a shadow
Yeah.
of a doubt, because he's literally swimming in dubs and we don't know what to do with them. And they're all amazing. So I can say on behalf of Lakeway, and I wouldn't do this with many artists, but I can give you a tune. After speaking to him, we can give you a tune. I don't know if I'm going to keep that in the interview or not, but I think I'd love to help you kind of, when the compilation comes out, we can use this interview again and remind people of the story. And hopefully, kind of any promoters or, kind of party crews who are looking to do something, hopefully this will encourage people, because I am starting to see, and I think, actually it was the COVID time that really kind of kick-started this, but people, unless you're in that really greedy top tier, which is eating all the food at the table, everybody else is just doing it for the love, or they've quit because there is no more money in it. So there are a lot more charity nights. There are a lot more fundraisers. There are a lot more people collaborating. Just, on the underground level, on that grassroots level, there's loads more people doing what I'm doing with One More Thing, or, kind of other little kind of brands and collectives. And they are doing it altruistically because it's for the love, it's because of the drive. You can't stop doing it. It's never been for the money in the first place. And whenever you think it's about the money, it just depresses you anyway. So these type of things I think are really important, and I think they show the true character of the real scene and not the kind of big, kind of festival footage that we see and people associate with drum and bass, but the real kind of underground scene that you guys have come from and have always been part of and are completely driven by now with Fight or Flight. So I hope, and if I can help spread the word in any type of way. I want to ask how much you've raised over the years, but that might be private information, and it might not.
No,
It might not be a necessary metric for people to know. I think really.
I think we've released 4 records and collected a bit of money the other couple of weeks ago, and I think I was looking myself. I think we've raised around 3 grand. So
That's brilliant.
um,
That's brilliant. Just
um,
out of music and just out of the power
yeah,
of
I mean,
this,
people are
really.
very generous. people are really generous with, Bandcamp's great for that because, people can pay what they want, and some people, we have a Just Giving, and we put all the money from the label goes into the Just Giving, so that's added to that amount. I just
Right.
have to create a new one because the old one was full, or they expire after a certain amount of time, or I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I mean, if you just want to like stream the tunes, though, actually going to Just Giving's better. If you're a taxpayer, you can put the gift aid on it, so charity gets more money going that way. But obviously, a lot of people want to download the tunes as well. So if people want to support it, however they want to support it, that's all amazing and hugely
Yeah,
appreciated.
definitely. I mean, this is
Uh,
more than a label. What's been the biggest eye opener kind of going through the fight or flight journey?
I would say just how much work goes into promotion and online.
Promotion is the worst. It's a curse. It takes up so much time, as you say, and no matter how much promotion you think you've done, there's still more to do. But then if you do two more and it's all condensed into a certain amount of time or on a particular platform, you end up seeming really needy. It's so hard to promote because there's so much music and everybody's got very different tastes and everybody's got so many other things going on. Music isn't the biggest pastime that it once was. And I think, and there's so many more people producing. Not all of it is great because they're just using sample packs. Everything's kind of diluted. So to find the real people who care about what you do and are interested, it's taken me 6 years to learn about your label, 5 years to learn about your label. I should have known about this. I should have known about this right at the start. And I thought I knew everything going on in drum and bass. Certainly at that point in July 2020, peak COVID, everybody on the internet, I was everywhere and writing about everything on all of the streams. And, so it's taken me that amount of time to find out about the label. So some of these times it just takes time to reach the right ears and stuff like that. But I think promotion is the most creative part of, no, it's not the actual creating of the music. But for me as the label owner, it's an incredibly creative and fun thing to do, but you get fatigue so much when you put in hours into making a video and then it only gets 50 views or it doesn't
Yeah,
convert into any streams or sales or anything like that. And it's keeping positive in such a climate is really difficult. But I guess there's so much of that we do with the label because it's coming from a deeper reason. I guess a lot of that you look at this, you look at everything in a very different way, I would imagine, really, and
yeah.
don't let it get you down.
I think the thing with social media is you're shooting in the dark in a way. You just don't know what's going to work, what the algorithm is going to favor. And I think
Yeah.
that's the really frustrating thing about it. There's not many other things in life where if you can put in a lot of time and dedication and know it's going to work. But it feels like with social media, you don't at all. And
Yeah.
that's the really difficult thing. I'd be interested to talk to you more about it. I could probably learn a hell of a lot from you, but yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it's just kind of getting on with it, and people who care, people who don't,
It
they
doesn't
don't.
matter.
So if they, it's I suppose what we're doing is not we try and make it as musically as the best we can, as interesting as we can, but ultimately if people don't like that music or whatever and they don't want to contribute to charity, they don't want to, do they? So that's on them, and not everyone can afford to as well. We should never
But
forget.
Yeah.
even if they don't like the music, they can still contribute to the charity. I mean, you sponsor someone to do a marathon, doesn't mean you want to run the marathon with them, does it? So I think anyone can see it's a good cause. So if it just kind of raises awareness of that cause, that's the key thing. And for everyone involved in the label, artists ourselves, that's hard work, but it's that is for passion. That's what we're interested in and what we want to do. We're not going to run a marathon. I'm certainly not. So,
No.
but yeah, we can do music though. That's what we can do. That's what's within our gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And long may that continue in that type of way. And I wanted to kind of wrap up really with what's the most valuable lesson you've learned, Matt, throughout all of this? And also maybe like, kind of if there's anything that you've learned which people really get wrong, either about kind of cancer or long-term illnesses or invisible illnesses as well. Anybody seeing you talk now wouldn't have a clue that you've got a tumor or anything like that. What are the most important things for people to bear in mind, and what is the most valuable lesson you've learned? And these are humongous questions for me to ask you on the spot, really. So take your time.
It's all right. I mean, I would say what I personally have learned is love life, love nature, love people, love everything. Be open to everyone. Never close your mind off. Don't categorize people. Don't judge people on who they are, where they come from. Don't make assumptions about anything in life. Um, and I would say, in terms of knowing someone with an illness, people just want to be normal. And if they want to talk to you about it, they will. And if they don't want to, they might not. And, personally, I think suffering with, fatigue, if anyone tells you they have fatigue, it's not just feeling really tired. And no, you don't know how it feels like,
Yeah,
because it is something, it's a new level of something that I think fatigue is. I think there should be a different definition for it. I was talking to someone about that, a health professional, um, because I think people always, and I know I was probably the same, because I had a colleague who had got fatigue, and it's yeah, it's a real crippling and
yeah.
nasty thing. So
Absolutely. And it's not just something that you can just cure or remedy with a few early nights or lie-ins or
no,
anything like that. It's a complete, like, it's a complete overwhelmment of the body and your energy levels and everything, really, like psychologically and everything, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah, and it's very unpredictable as well. Like one day you can have not that much sleep and feel great. The next day you can have loads of sleep and feel awful. It's nothing. It's not about rest, is what I would say. It's about I don't. Well, if people knew what it was about, I mean, for me, it's probably due to the radiation. Still, I'm a radioactive man. Could never achieve it. But but yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Really inspiring as well. So thank you, Matt, and thank you, Adam. And I hope you're able to continue Fight or Flight for a long time. I'm going to be paying close attention. And I'd love to have another conversation with you, not, a non-interview, just chatting about running Naples and, hopefully collaborating and helping you raise some money as well. Thank you to everybody who's watched this. Again, like I love having these conversations where I don't feel particularly comfortable kind of it. It's not a conversation that I have very often, besides the fact that my mate has gone through something quite similar, comparable. So it's conversations I've been having, but they're not easy conversations to have, but I think they're really important for people to know and for people to be inspired by, really, and to see what real shit goes on and how strong music is in terms of a powerful healing source, really. Sorry, I'm quite emotional. I'm really sorry.
Well,
But yeah, I
thanks
wish
so
you all the
much,
best.
Dave. No, it's massively appreciated, mate. No, really, really, truly appreciated.
Brilliant. Cool. Thank you. And I'm really glad we've made the connection. So thank you both of you.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, big up, mate. Yeah,
Awesome.
cheers.
One more thing.